brought you in a little closer because it is late on Wednesday evening, June 5th, and Melissa's gone to bed, so I wanted to be sure my softer voice would be picked up by the mic. There's a lot to reflect on that has happened since my last entry. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell the story, and I'll also mention that the refinements I'm getting from reviewing Living Tantra are fantastic. I had been concerned that some of what I'd been saying was inaccurate, but upon rehearing it and looking back at the notes that I compiled, I feel very good about what I've been doing, and it's my intention tomorrow, my full day off, to do that recording I've been talking about with my focused, comprehensive teaching, instruction, explanation of the complete practice of Pranadharma. Hopefully without too many tangents, but that'll be fun. So, upon my last entry, I believe I concluded by saying, hey, it's time for me to get off to work. And I had 30 minutes at that point. I needed to eat breakfast still. I quickly assembled a bowl and went to squeeze some honey on top, as those of you who remember me at the Institute maybe remember just how much I enjoy swirling my honey on top of my cereal. Well, squeezed, top popped off, honey oozed a tremendous amount into the bowl, onto the side, and onto the counter. It's a sticky mess. Oh my gosh, I don't have time to deal with this. Thankfully, Melissa said, don't worry about it, I'll clean it up. Awesome. I went ahead and ate my cereal, intensely sweet, because I needed something in my belly. Unfortunately, I also had juice that Melissa had made, but that put me behind a little bit. I got out the door, I was on my bike, I had maybe 10 minutes to get to work, and I was flying, absolutely flying. I got to this part where I take a little shortcut, and there go up this little hill behind the hotel, and there's two little speed bumps at the main rear entrance. Actually, it is the only main entrance to the hotel. And as I was approaching that driveway for the shortcut that goes around these parking garages and then ends up spitting out in a space that I can shortcut to work, avoid major intersections, there was a truck pulling in and pulling up the driveway, and it was moving slow. So I looked at that and I said, I can get around that and pass it, because I saw there were no other cars coming. So got over the first speed bump, went over the second speed bump, and had my feet pressed on the pedals so that my pelvis was lifted off the seat, because then it's kind of like riding a horse in that way. You let the bike move underneath you, so you stay steady. Riding a horse, you let the horse move underneath you, and then, so in a way you move with the horse, but the horse is free to move. So in this way, the bicycle is free to move over the bumps. Well, because of how fast I was accelerating, when I came down off the second bump, my right foot slipped off the pedal because of malfunction. I had these dual cleats, and it popped off. My foot slipped, hit the ground, gears raked the back of my leg. And so because of that, how it was held up, the seat then pounded me in the base of the pelvis, front interior of the left sit bone, where basically the hamstring insertion and adductor insertions, all of the vital components were unaffected. But it was a very tender strike. And so then I'm hobbling back and forth over the bicycle. The chain popped off, which stopped the back wheel from spinning, further causing me to hobble and not really have control of the bicycle. And so pedal raked the other leg as well. But in this process, my big toe got jammed. And actually, I was going to show you a comparison here. You can see how much fatter this toe is as opposed to this one. And in Baddha Konasana here, it's also quite evident how much fatter this one is than this one. Now, Melissa reset the bone on this one. As I was practicing this morning, I couldn't do a full down dog, but she was able to get a hold of it and she got it reset. I was able to determine that nothing was broken. And I felt fine. It didn't feel fine. What the heck am I talking about? So I ended up working my whole shift yesterday. It was just a lunch, but I was moving slow. Okay, the rest of what happened though, because this was the miraculous part. And also, those of you who remember from the Institute may perhaps remember when I first arrived. It was within the second month I was playing a game with some other friends in the woods. Not at the Institute. We were on a hike. The game was called Camouflage. And it was the very first round, and I very zealously found myself running towards the lead player to try and tag them, and launched myself through the air Superman style, and had this feeling of just flying. It was like time stood still, and almost if I knew how to activate an encoded flight frequency pattern, I felt like I could have continued flying. Same thing happened yesterday, because as I was hobbling towards the curb, I recognized where my momentum was headed, and I could either fall and get tangled up in the bike into this bush in a planter on the left, or I could push down the handlebars and throw myself over the bicycle. The latter of which happened, and it was amazing. I completely cleared the bike and found myself up and in the air. Now, the road is at one level, and next to the curb, there's a planter that runs along and stops. And there's about a 4.5-foot gap, and the next planter starts, and the road's still running here. The planters drop down about 3 feet, and then slope down into a parking garage, and there's a fire hydrant in the middle of this gap. And there's a space between the curb and the fire hydrant, probably that wide. There's the fire hydrant. So I'm in the air, and I see this opening, and it's like I'm going too far to land on the near side of the planting bed, and I'm not going fast enough to be able to step on the ledge of the far one. I'm going straight down, and if I don't do something, I'm going to land right on top of that fire hydrant, not wearing a helmet. I've since changed that. And just like in the woods, I did this aerial cat maneuver to make sure I didn't land on this tree trunk that was on the ground. Instead, I landed on soft ground. Same thing happened here. I twisted, and I landed right next to that fire hydrant. And didn't get the wind knocked out of me. Got a thorn skewered through the skin on my left hand, very much like you would with a needle if you were trying to remove a sliver. Pulled right out, fine. Could breathe fine, nothing was broken. Honestly, I was absolutely grateful. It was amazing. I mean, it was like, I felt like I was flying, and then I saw where my landing was, and I said, fall, land here. And it did. So, in the way I felt guided, protected, it was really something. Okay. So that became an extension of practice. Promoting positivity. Being in this place of extreme discomfort and yet having a role to play. More than a role to play, it's, my space to command and conduct my section, to take care of other people. And just because I'm in a place of discomfort, or there is part of me that is in a place of discomfort, that does not affect the quality of focus with which I serve those who I've crossed paths with. And I continue to provide upliftment for everyone around me. To not provide, offer, because it's all about being open to receiving what is available. And there was a point through the shift where I felt this voice chime in that said, this has been a test. The test is ongoing, but you've passed this part of the test. So what I've come to feel, the remaining part of the test is, and this has come out of this refinement of Pranadharma, is how Patanjali describes Pranadharma, and how specifically the Pranapratishtha that I've been working around explaining, how you are able to focus the intention of the pranic shakti that you've created with that intention for healing, and compress it, focus it, and direct it to whatever entity, object, or space you need to infuse with that healing intention. So this is also about giving back to myself and being able to see how I respond. I mean, this is just another part of this experiment. It reminded me of when I was in teacher training. All the guys went crazy for basketball that summer. Not myself. I'm not a huge sports person. I had my own injury at that time that became a similar part of the practice, but I think I'm doing much better with it this time. Mine was a bicycle injury then as well. Also got thrown over the handlebars, but I did clear it. That was a lesson that I learned from. And it messed up my ribs halfway through teacher training. But Rolf Sobek joined the boys playing basketball. And these guys, this was not just Rolf. I mean, guys were hurting their ankles, twisting their knees left and right. The Himalayan Institute Health Center was doing great for business off residents. But Rolf hurt his ankle, and I remember observing him over a few days and felt it was remarkable, the kind of improvement he made in how he was able to move around within just a couple days. And I said to myself, he's doing something special. for himself to facilitate that. And I mean, this was at the same time that Pandaji was teaching Pranadharma, and I'm sure Rolf already knew it because Rolf had studied with Swami Rama. I mean, Rolf is really the first person I connected with at the Institute. The first time I went to visit, I mean, he was doing the New Year's seminar. Pandaji was in India. All that is to say is there are so many remarkable facets of the faculty at the Institute. I mean, all the teachers there, and they're all connected to the lineage, and that's what I'm connecting to. The lineage of teaching. Actually, I had a nice opportunity to connect with someone else about that today. So, part of the continued practice in self-offering, I mean, after I finished my shift, I came home, took an Epsom salt bath, and that was where I really started working with my pranic shakti. I had this meditative space, resting in the bath, where I was really focusing my energy and my healing. And connecting with my heartbeat. I was sitting under the water up to my ears. So, and when you do that, you can hear your blood in your ears. It's the whoosh of your heart, your 4-chambered liquid crystal oscillator, moving your liquid crystal through your body. And they said Swami Rama used to, it was documented that he could slow his heart rate. So that was something I experimented with. And so because the breath is something you have conscious control over with your mind, and the body and mind are connected by the breath. So because you can work with the body to control the breath to elicit a response in the mind, and you can use the mind to consciously control the breath to create a response in the physical body. So that's the connection that I was playing with. And it's really a part of the whole mind game, or how to get into the mind game, I feel. And it's like knowing how to play. Not a rule book. It's because even once you get into a game, it's about strategy. And different players have different strategies, different ways about winning the game, but not so much winning, playing. Because when you're playing is when your strategy is in action. You're using your tools, your creativity to work with the opportunities in front of you, using your tools. I mean, this is the Tantra. So I woke up very early this morning to start my practice, just to really check in with my foot and see how it was feeling today. And I couldn't do a full downward dog. I couldn't move. Really, really, walking was pretty painful. And Melissa sat down with me after I explained how I was feeling, and she grabbed hold of my toe, and I was just laughing like crazy. What else to do? It wasn't pushed to excruciating, but the manipulating was, in a way, it was like tickling that threshold of discomfort. It was like just on the other side. Like I knew it was good for me, and when something falls back into place, there's this energetic release. It's like as that alignment clicks back into place, there's a charging, like, oh, that feels so good. I'm very grateful. And I was scheduled an open double today, open a restaurant in a double shift, and if I called in, because it hurt too much to walk, it was really going to mess with my teammates. So, I called in, explained my situation, and I said, I want to come in and help open, but I really need to rest my foot. I mean, because I have to work all this weekend. And yes, I had tomorrow off, but I was feeling concerned that if I did not give my foot time to rest, that, because I showed you the inflammation, but the mobility that I have right now is so much better than it was this very morning. I went in and I did the open, and they gave me the morning off. They had enough servers, but tonight they couldn't give me the night off. If I was going to have the night off, I needed to find somebody to cover the shift. So I set about doing that, and it didn't happen. But through my time off, I was able to get a hold of my friend who helped me go down and pick up our truck from the veggie garage with its fully installed alternative fuel system that we will be driving to Taos. Super exciting. And so I ended up going to work, and the practice of positivity continued, from being in a place of acceptance of the discomfort that part of me felt, and knowing that feeling this positivity and appreciation for myself, for my own ability to heal, is the very best that I can do for myself. Also taking arnica, taking turmeric mill. I did take some Advil before bed. And then just honoring myself and not pushing myself too far. That's real medicine, and I think we can call it real tantric medicine. Especially, I guess that's something that Patanjali said, and I've got a few notes here that I'm going to touch on before the full practice. Is it this one? Well, one of the concluding points that Patanjali said when describing the practice of pranadharana, that doing this practice in this way, it leads you to experience yoga in a way that is described in the tradition, in the Himalayan tradition. And this is the yoga that makes you become the master of your body and the master of your mind. And I already explained the connection, so that it's just appropriate to tie in. Tantric practice is practice that is charged with pranic energy. When you do an asana and your focus is on the prana, that makes the asana tantric. And when you focus on what the prana moves, then you're using bandhas. There's another note on that. No. That will come out in a later instruction. But something else that I mentioned that I came to resolution in my last entry, the feeling of guilt. I admitted there was this little thing of guilt, but nobody needs guilt, and I do my best to not make myself feel guilty. Am I doing this practice right? And what Patanjali made very clear is that the vigorousness of the practice does not reflect the level of advancement, or the level of skill in the practice. What's more important is the intensity of your awareness on the movement of the breath. And know that breath is not air. Air is not breath. I wrote something on that. Where did I add that in? Air is not breath. Breath is not air. There is Shakti that drives breath, which draws and moves the air in and out of the lungs. The breath is different. The breath is something that you work with your awareness. And because awareness is an aspect of consciousness, and prana is drawn to consciousness. It's an attraction. It's magnetic. It happens automatically. This is the law. As Patanjali says, it's part of the law of attraction. So because prana is drawn to consciousness, wherever you place your awareness, this aspect of consciousness, prana is drawn to it. So when I do the prana dharma, and it is focused, and then with prana pratishtha, my intention placed in this pranic field, dropped into the fires of assimilation of my navel center, and this field is focused. And because of the so there's an amazing relationship between pranadharma and agnisara, and that I'm going to get into more details when I do the instruction. But through the agnisara, you turn and focus that Shakti, that then your focus can navigate that force into that specific space, field, object, or place within yourself for it to do its work. In this instance, my big toe. So I will definitely be adding into my practice some time for 61-point relaxation. And also I'm intending to do some yoga nidra, just as an added bonus. Now, the guilt that I was talking about, the way Patanjali describes this practice, it's accessible to anyone. Anyone can do it. The key is to be comfortable in your body, to have a comfortable posture, and that can be whatever that is for any individual. Oh, I have to do this practice with my asana, or after my asana, before my meditation, or after my meditation. Like, any of it is right. It's whatever works for you. The key is to just do it every day, and to let your awareness and sensitivity grow with it. Now, because of what I have learned, I appreciate my knowledge and understanding of that interrelationship between the practice of pranadharma and agnisara. As these are two profound practices within the tradition. And all the other things that I'm studying, I find supported, and so blessed that I was given knowledge of these tools to take with me out into the world and see and experience how to work with them, so that I feel alive, vibrant, and free. I'm not trapped in a mortal form. Instead, they uplift me and make me feel connected to the greater part of me that is so much more than just this body of flesh and bone. So I think that covered my sense of guilt. The more you do pranadhana, the more effective your Agnisara will become.